Welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Jurisdiction Podcast. I'm your host, Gonzalo. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're new to this channel, this is a vlog of my journey through law school. It serves two purposes. One, it's a nice, relatively easy creative outlet of mine, and it's also a good way to record this important time in my life, the law school years. Secondly, I want this to be useful to anyone who's watching, any prospective or current law students that are looking for some useful tips or someone to empathize with in their adventures through law school, through the good and bad. This is what this podcast is about. It's normally divided into three parts. The first is the weekly catch-up, where I just talk about what I'm doing during the week. The second part is a tip of the week. And the third is a short discussion on some deeper philosophical or more abstract idea about the profession, the law school, being a lawyer, the law, all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's begin with the first part of this podcast, the weekly catch-up. What am I doing this week? Personally, I've been doing a lot of family stuff, which is always nice. I love my family, but I'm also very introverted, so it takes a lot of effort to get me to family events. But when I do them, I really try to enjoy myself and make myself accessible to all my family. So I did that this weekend in a big way. I went to parties for both sides of my family, spent some good time with them, and it's a nice reprieve from the everyday stress of law school, and it was good to see family members that I haven't seen in a long time. A common experience, I'm sure, for all law students is once everyone knows that you're going to law school, you just get inundated with questions and comments about your time in law school, plenty of jokes about you they're going to need you when they get into trouble, etc., etc. So I had to get through a lot of that, and it was interesting and fun. But aside from the personal stuff, this week is also the week after midterms, so the foot is off the gas pedal a little bit, and there's a bit of a nice relaxation period as you get ready to ramp up for the remainder of the semester and you start for final exam preps. So kind of enjoying this kind of weird purgatory stage where you're trying to relax, but at the same time you see in the distance that finals are coming and you need to prepare. So nice middle between high anxiety and recovering from stressful times. So overall the week, enjoyable, very enjoyable. And feeling good considering all the circumstances and all the responsibilities that one has during law school. But yeah, that was the week. Pretty good. Moving next to the tip of the week. This is a very straightforward, something that I just wanted to throw out there for mostly, I guess, 1Ls now. And it's based on this old cliche that you'll hear whenever you go into any profession, I imagine, that being in this profession requires learning a new language, being able to speak legalese, and being able to understand the argot of the profession, and that will come about through your just reading of the texts, but a tip that I like to give people is um, uh, you can learn a lot about the law um, just by reading the cases. Let me specifically say you could learn a lot of the language, all of the Latin phrases, all of the common legal terms, just from reading the case books and coming to the same kind of words and concepts enough. It'll eventually get embedded in your mind. But if you want to expedite the process, I would suggest that you, at the beginning of the semester, for whatever semester you're in, to keep a list of legal vocabulary words, the Latin phrases, and all just the technical language that you've either never seen before or you've noticed that it's being used in a very specific way. I'm a stickler for language and writing, so I like to pay attention to that stuff anyway, but I think it's really helped me learn legalese by actually keeping this running vocabulary list that I could refer back to every time I come across the word. What I normally do is I do like a search for the word on Black's Law Dictionary and copy and paste the definition onto the Word doc. And this has been very helpful. There's always the temptation to just search the word on Google and see what the word means and then continue reading the casebook. But I think it's really worth just the extra bit of effort to keep a list of the vocab words and just taking a glance at the list every now and again to supplement your learning. There's a lot of new words you're going to learn in law school, and many times they're used across disciplines or areas of law, and some of these words you might have recognized or might have understood for a while now, but they're being used in the law in a novel way. So it's just good to keep track of all the vocabulary you're learning, all the legalese that you're learning on a Word doc. That's just a nice kind of handout for you during law school, during your courses, during lecture, and all that kind of stuff during your reading. So yeah, that's the tip for the week. Very specific, very kind of minor, but I think significant in its benefits to your overall learning. Moving to the third and final section of the vlog, where I talk about something bigger picture, philosophical about the law school, the legal profession. This week, I've been thinking about what it means to be a law student and an attorney in the 21st century, or in modern times. Think the pandemic, and more so the advent of Zoom, has changed the way a lot of lawyers practice law in significant ways. That's just, one aspect of how technology in today's world is changing the legal profession. But even that alone is huge. The trial attorneys at the firm that I work at are now able to squeeze in more than one deposition for the day, instead of having to spend the whole day going to some city, taking the depo, and having to stay in the city for the whole day, and having lost out in several hours of work that they could have done had they done a Zoom meeting or had that technology with them. So I was just trying to think of all the other ways that my practice of the law will be different from prior generations. Um, Specifically, and this kind of ties into themes I've talked about in other episodes, which is because most of the work of an attorney is being done through the computer nowadays, um, there's now real barriers to being able to focus on a specific task at hand, whatever it is, because you're being inundated by emails and you have your phone and you're getting messages and calls from clients and other people in the firm, and you have your social media apps and you have YouTube and you have all your other technological annoyances going on, and it's becoming very difficult to do engaged, focused work. And like I said, the themes I've been talking about in the past are things about being focused, being in the present, and so I'm just trying to think of ways that right now I could already start preparing myself in law school, preparing myself for the practice of law and setting goals to prepare myself so that when I get to whatever it is that I'm doing, I can be focused and engaged in the work and not constantly distracted by the myriad of annoyances. And again, that's just one aspect of what it means to be a practicing attorney in the 21st century. There are other things, the greater focus on mental health and life and work balance, and that's never before been more emphasized, and a host of other issues, and these thoughts have just been floating in my head, and I'm curious to know what you guys can think of, or what you guys think about what it means to be a lawyer in today's world, in modern times. I'd actually like to have a conversation with some older attorneys and just kind of get a feel of what it was to practice law before the internet. It seems like almost unimaginable. I can't imagine how this is something that is probably important now too, to keep in mind when you think of sticking to deadlines and being punctual, being on time, and making sure everything is calendared. That problem, or that host of problems, or those set of skills seem to be more certainly ingrained in prior generations, because everything was done non-digitally. Everything was in paper. Like you had to make sure your summons or your complaint or whatever it was served on this day, because you couldn't send it through email, you couldn't do e-filing, it was all done through mail. So you had to make sure that you were being punctual to the nth degree. And I imagine that the technological revolution has relaxed perhaps those skills in attorneys nowadays, because the consequences don't seem as dire, because you could just send an email, or send an e-file e-filing with Expedited. So I'm just trying to keep in mind all the little things that I need to keep in mind, all the things that I should be correcting for, to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the best that modern times has to offer to better myself as the kind of lawyer I want to be, and I'm making sure that the disadvantages of modern technological society today isn't being too detrimental to the kind of lawyer I want to be. And it's a hard problem to solve, but it's a continuing work in progress. Like I continually emphasize, as I will emphasize throughout this whole vlog, that's the name of the game. But just good to keep in mind. So let me know what you guys think about that. What are your thoughts? What are you guys worried about? What are your views on practicing law or being a law student in this day and age? And leave it in the comments, and I'd be glad to see what you guys have to say. But that covers what I wanted to cover this week. I'll see you guys next week, and thanks for watching.